Welcome back to the ProPhysique Code Prep series. Me, Rachel, Evan, and a special guest today, Matt, is with us. And
definitely not Lexi.
Yeah, not Lexi.
I look a little different.
A little bit.
And I sound a little different.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about education, experience, and passion in regards to coaching.
Cool.
Yeah.
I do want to talk, let's talk a little bit. Matt, you're our guest. Tell us what's new with you, who you are. The listeners, our loyal listeners of the prep series may not know exactly who you are. I think the last time you're on the podcast is our special episode of our Olympia predictions, which was
that the last time?
Oh I think God, so. Yeah, that was me and Evan at the Olympia on the couch.
That was a while ago, yeah. So it's been about a year and a half with ProPhysique now. Prior to that, I was just pretty much coaching part-time and running a supplement company here in SA, which I still do, but that has become kind of the part-time thing now. And originally started coaching, as I think a lot of coaches do, pretty shortly after I started competing when I was 21 years old. And I think that kind of ties in nicely with the theme of today, because of course at that stage didn't have a ton of education or experience, but just started based on what I had done in my contest preps, which was highly faulty. But as I'm sure we'll get into, you live, you make mistakes, you learn, and I think that's part of what makes you a good coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And where are you located? Yeah. Did you already say that?
No, I didn't. Johannesburg, South Africa.
Yeah, you're farthest coach.
Almost Belgium, but that ended up not happening.
Oh, so you're not moving to Belgium anymore?
No, we're staying here, which is why I reached out to you and I was like, hey, because we decided to stay, and I was like, I can't do the no electricity thing anymore. So we just got solar installed. So now I have electricity all the time.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
What a thing.
I literally, it made me think of that because I just got a notification on my phone to say that it's starting in 10 minutes. And I'm like, yes.
That's awesome.
I'm going to have power. Yeah.
That would be so weird to just know that your power can go out at any time.
Well, what's weird is that they schedule it and you get push notifications on your phone to say it's happening in 10 minutes.
At least they give you a heads up. That's mighty nice of them.
Yeah, really, really nice.
That's wild.
How's everybody else doing? Evan, you had a good weekend, right?
Yeah, it was a good weekend. It was a long weekend. It was a good weekend, though. It was a good weekend.
Tell us about the highlights. Other than seeing me and Kaylee, other than that was obviously a highlight.
Obviously, the number one highlight of the whole weekend was that. And we all forgot to wear our hats today.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, I have my hat. Oh wait, it's too small. I have a really deceivingly large head. I don't know if anyone knows. We got our hats.
Is that a kid's small hat?
I don't know.
Have you put it on, Evan?
What's that? I don't have mine in here.
It looks like you might have a big head for hats.
Yeah, me? For sure. You have
a very weird shaped hat. But no, it was a good weekend. We had the Tampa Pro, which is the big pro show, and NPC show that's attached to it. And ProPhysique had a very good weekend. In the IFBB side of things, Paul's client got second, so one spot away from her winning Olympic qualification there. Yes, she looked amazing. She looked great. And I think she was 14th in her first show, I think it was. And then she got second in this show. So massive improvements overnight. Not overnight,
but showed me the video that Friday night when we were all there. And I was like, dang.
Yeah, she looked great. Then I had a first-time competitor that got just ridiculous talent, who's done all the work and done very, very well. I started working with her about 9 months ago. We did a big recomp with her and then put her in her first prep, and she won the overall in novice and true novice. And then Paul's girl won the overall in the open. So we literally won every bikini overall at a big, huge regional show, and just missed winning literally everything. If we
that would have been cool as shit.
That's really cool.
So it was good. It was a good weekend. It was a real good weekend for all of us, and for ProPhysique and for the athletes, and just for everyone. So it was a lot of fun. This was also one of the first times that I had 5 competitors at different time zones going on the same
Oh,
day. So that was
yeah.
a
Yeah.
different experience
Yeah.
on that side of things.
Yep.
But everyone did really well. Everyone, had a great time. So got back with everyone totally great. So it was just a great weekend all the way around. So yeah, it was fun. We had a good time.
Good. Good for you.
The
Kaylee,
time zone thing on show days is tough to manage, dude, because that's
Yeah.
always my reality pretty much, unless somebody's competing here. So it's like generally a 30-hour day for me.
Yeah, it's just they're so long, right? And
Yeah.
and plus like we were at the show and we had the booth, we had all this stuff. So it was trying to balance everything while trying to work a booth and at the same time with it. So it's just, it's a lot, but it's fun and it's worth it.
What was the booth? Like, what did we do at the booth, ProPhysique?
Really just talk to people. We had
Yeah.
we had some stuff out, like merch and information on Command the Stage and all that kind of good stuff. And it's just
Stage. Do we know?
no, we don't have a date for it yet. No.
Okay, got it. For
We don't
those
have
of
a
you that
date for
don't
that
know,
yet.
Command the Stage was an amazing event we did this year in February that was an all women's contest prep seminar, like all inclusive. We had a bunch of speakers. I spoke. We had Brett Contreras there. Dr. Joe, was he there speaking? I think Danica spoke on mindset. Steven spoke on stuff. Like we have like some of our coaches, but then also some outside speakers come. And then I think Laura Lee came out to do some posing stuff. And we did training. It's like a whole weekend and lots of fun. So we should be doing it next year probably in February, but
Be my guess.
Yeah.
We're locking
I
down a
think,
location right now.
We had a promo thing that came through, and I think it says
Mhm.
February
Yeah.
date announced soon or something like that.
So keep
if
an
you
eye
are-
out.
Yeah, if you're interested in that, keep an eye out because I know we have a seminar in Texas here
Mhm.
next weekend.
Yeah.
So wow, it's coming up quick.
On
And
the
that is
20th.
and that's already sold out. So if y'all
Yeah.
didn't get into that next time,
Sucks to suck.
That's my birthday.
Oh,
happy early birthday, Kaylee.
Yay. Who's
What
gonna
are you
be
doing for your
38?
birthday?
Huh? What am I gonna do for my birthday? I'll be that Saturday. I have a client competing in St. Louis, so I'll drive to St. Louis to be in person at that show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And when are you going to Vegas? Is that this month or is that later?
Very last weekend of this month.
Okay.
I like out of nowhere have like a ton of travel all of a sudden. It's like I didn't travel all year, it felt like, and now I have like a lot happening.
But coaching life and just life in general. I randomly have not had like that much travel. I went to the river like a few weeks ago and then I'm going to the river again this weekend. But other than that, like, and then the day Tampa trip, I don't even feel like that was real because like
I know it was wild.
we went to Tampa for literally less than 24 hours to celebrate 1 million downloads on the podcast. That's why we got the hats. So we will wear these next weekend when Lexi is around. But yeah, it was a fun dinner. Paul and Misty took us out, and it really was a small group because not everyone could come. It was me, Evan, Kaylee, and then Jess on the lifestyle side, and it was fun. It was pretty good food. My steak was a situation, but
Yeah, you had a heart for a steak.
yeah. Well, first I had like just like completely medium, almost well done steak, and I had ordered medium rare. I don't know how anyone can eat steak more done than medium rare. How do you guys eat your steak?
There's psychopaths out there.
Medium well.
Medium rare.
Oh God, gross.
Yeah.
I like just a little bit of pink and that's it. If I can see blood or it looks at all uncooked, I'm out.
I want to see some blood for sure.
So-
But yeah, it was a fun weekend. I moved into my house, so I'm now in my house, and I'm just like, if it echoes in here, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I need to get a rug in here to like soak up some sound. But for now, like it's nice because I have an office, and then I have a full guest room, and then I have another room that I'm kind of making into like a creative room. So I have like my green couch in there. I'm gonna put some like lights in there and like a fuzzy rug, and it's just gonna be a room to get high in and trip out.
I was like, sounds like a room to do drugs.
Yeah, it's a room to do drugs.
I was thinking the same thing.
Absolutely.
It literally did not cross my mind, actually.
Really?
No, I was gonna say, what are you making, like a sex room or something? Like
Well,
that's where
no.
my mind.
Every
went.
room is a sex room.
Because I could double as both. Doesn't have to be mutually exclusive, Kayla.
Yeah,
Exactly.
maybe you start with the drugs and then it leads into.
Depends what drugs.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
So
And our episode's getting pulled.
Anyway, so we're
This is
talking
about health and fitness, right?
yeah, we like to just warm it up first and just talk about drugs.
Fair enough.
Matt looks red and embarrassed. I think we took it too far.
No, this is called being pale and sunburned.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
it's a great look.
Being pale and living in South Africa. That's what it's called.
Ugh.
So our topic today is education, experience, and passion. So I think we should all kind of go around and talk about just briefly like how we became coaches and like in terms of just going through like our education and our experience and just like our why as coaches. Who wants to start?
I can start.
Kayla, you start.
I'll do it. Okay, so how did I get started? So the reason I started coaching, because for a long time, people would like message me on Instagram. I'm sure every one of you got this and they'd be like, hey, can you help me? And I'm like, I'm not a coach. I don't coach. Here's my coach, Paul, if you want his information. And it happened a lot. And it never really sparked like, should I coach until the longer I was in the industry, the more I started to notice bad coaching. I guess I hate to say that, but I noticed bad coaching. I would feel bad for them. Like I want to help these people, but I can't do my job and help these people, And then there was a local coach and this girl was going through a prep. She messaged me. She was just going, what they were doing to her was terrible. The protocols and just everything. And it just sparked like, I want to help women. Like I want to help this industry. I know I can't help everyone, but I want to be a good coach in the industry. And so I have my bachelor's degree, but it's in communication. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to do it, I feel like I have a lot of experience in terms of being a competitor. I'd been coached by Paul at that point, I think 3 or 4 years. But I'm like, I need to do something else. So I signed up to get my NASM certification, went through all of that. And then one day I'm just like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I just like put in my Instagram story, I was going to coach, and I filled up a roster. And like 24 hours, I had like 15 new clients, which anybody who's experienced, that's a lot to get ready. When it's your very first time coaching, it's a whole lot. And so I just kind of like very slowly added because I couldn't, I didn't want to overextend myself or be, have bad coaching. And then I did that for a year, I think, on my own. And then one day in my check-in to Paul, I was like, hey, what would I have to do to work for ProPhysique? And he's like, get through my wife. And so I ended up with a call with Paul and Misty, and everything went good. And that was in 2019. And here I am.
And how many coaches were there at the time? Because you were one of the first.
I think I was the 4th.
Yeah.
Maybe
Something
5th.
like that. Yeah. That sounds about right.
Yep.
And now we have like 30.
Yeah, it's insane for
Yeah.
me. Like, I feel like I was almost like, I wasn't in the very beginning, but I was early enough where I feel like I've just like seen so much change and growth. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes like my onboarding was sitting in Paul's kitchen with him and Misty. You know what I mean? Like it was insane.
Yeah.
But I really think out of education, experience, and passion, in my opinion, passion is going to be the biggest factor on a good coach.
Mhm.
Because experience can take time. Sometimes you might start without it. Education, it depends on what type of education you're considering. Is it a, like a textbook education, or is it a, learning from people around you? Because, going to seminars or just working under really experienced coaches, I consider that education.
Yeah.
I do
Absolutely.
too.
It's
I
just
consider
like
it
there's so
almost
many
more
different-
important education, honestly.
Yeah.
I think
And
it's the best form of
that rolls in
education.
experience. That rolls in experience.
You
as
get
well.
education from experience, or you can if you're like willing to learn. Because I think
Yes.
some people I know some people like they work with other coaches or like they work under coaches, but they don't really ever learn anything because they just do things the way that's always been done. Right.
Yeah.
Like that happens quite a bit where it's like, oh, they work for that coach or they're associated with that coach, so they must be a good coach. And like, if you're not truly learning more and more as you go through not only experience, but like continuing education of some kind, like you're going to fall behind. And so that's
Yep.
why
I think some people fall into just because, for example, Paul's my coach, but I don't coach 100% like Paul. Like if you just mimic what someone else did for you, that doesn't make you a good coach. That's how cookie cutter coaches started, because they were coached by somebody. So then they copy and pasted that on so they could make money off people.
Well, and I think that's also like when you see, and this is like no shade to any pros or coaches, like we want to be careful here and like how we're like, this isn't specifically targeted at anyone, but you see what I've seen happen from like clients that have come to me or maybe been with me and then left and then come back is a lot of people really fall for the IFBB pro coach. And so like someone is like a high level pro or like just a pro in general, maybe even not high level, and they decide to just coach with them because they're advertising that they're a coach and that's it. They don't do a consult call. They don't look at like how they coach. They don't know about their education or experience. They just go with them because they're a pro or because that pro really like marketed towards them in the right way. Whether it was talking to them or their advertising or marketing, whatever. But most of the time people are good all of the time. People are good competitors, not because they know what exactly they're doing or why they did any of it. They're good because they are good at following directions. And so if you're good at following directions, great, good for you. You can be a great athlete if you work hard as well and you have good genetics and all the things, but that doesn't make you good at coaching other people. It might make you good and lucky when you get a really healthy client and you get a client who maybe is like you and you can coach them, but like the mental side of things, the interpersonal, the day-to-day, the check-ins, like all of that stuff, that really, really matters. And that's where the experience comes in. Whereas like if a pro or if someone is coaching and they don't have that, they're just coaching you how they learned from their coach and that's it, then you probably won't have a really good coaching experience because they at a certain point, they're going to run out of tricks. They're going to run out of things that they're going to be able to do.
Hey, Rich, I want to piggyback off that a little bit. I think, I mean, we're both pros, obviously, but you know, I think I always look at John Meadows and like what made John Meadows like a good, respected coach. And I truly think it's because it didn't come easy for him. Like it took him like 20 years, right, before he got it. I mean, it didn't take me that long with it, but I'm not the most genetically blessed person on the planet. I had to learn a lot to be decent at this. Yeah. And I think that translates into coaching with that, because when things are hard and things don't come easy, that's where the value comes and that's where the learning comes.
Yeah.
So just because someone's a pro doesn't mean they know or they understand. I mean, shoot, I work with people that, and I'm friends with very high level people that I ask them like, well, why is your meal plan like this? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
No clue. They literally just follow the plan.
Probably not a great coach. Like,
no,
you know,
probably
like
not a great coach.
They're not going to be a good coach. That's why they're going to focus
great athlete.
on things. Yeah.
Great athlete. Not the best coach though.
Yeah.
And there's people like that.
What you just
that's
said.
Such an interesting point. Yeah, that's such an interesting point because John was actually the guy that inspired me to get into coaching because I had no intention of doing that. And in South Africa, we were like limited with choice, right? There was like one dude that used to do coaching when I started bodybuilding. And I happened to just find John's name on some forum somewhere and reached out to him. And I think he was at that stage still like a bank manager or something. This was like before he had even made it his full-time career. And he coached me for a good 2 to 3 years. And that's what kind of got the ball rolling in my head in terms of taking that up as a possible career. And, you know, you guys were talking about experience and working under great coaches as a great form of education. The funny thing is that after leaving John, just because at some point when he did resign from the bank and take up coaching full-time, he became so expensive for me at that point, so I transitioned to somebody else. And in a certain sense, working with bad coaches has almost been a better learning experience for me.
It can be because you had the experience of a good one to start.
Yeah,
exactly. I was very lucky in that sense. So when, you know, you see a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people at least, that if you start with substandard coaching, you don't have a frame of reference. So you don't know that it's bad.
Yeah.
All you know is what you know.
Mhm.
Actually, I started with John, and I had that frame of reference. I was like, okay, this is the standard. This is what should be expected. And then when you move to those other coaches and you see that level of what they're doing, it teaches you very quickly what you shouldn't do. And I don't only mean from the technical aspect, but I mean from just interpersonal relationships, managing expectations, just the very basic stuff, like how long does it take you to attend to your check-ins? How long does it take you to answer questions? All that
Mm-hmm.
basic kind of stuff. You learn a lot by doing that.
Yeah.
You sure do.
I had a
You sure
coach,
do.
my very first coach was like, he was so bad that like I was aware enough that I knew that he was bad. Like going from what you just said, Matt, like I was pretty sure like there has to be another way. Like this is fucking bullshit. And that's why like when I eventually found Paul through like listening to a podcast I was listening to Lane Norton's podcast at the time, and he was advertising for Paul because Paul was still kind of just starting out. And like, that's how I found Paul, and I interviewed a couple other coaches. I liked his vibe the best, and I liked his philosophy the best. So I went with him. And like, going back to what you said, Evan, with like how some people have to work really hard for a long time to get to where they are, right? Like to get the pro card or to get to the full roster of clients or whatever, is like, in the grand scheme of things now in my career, and like for most people that go pro eventually, it didn't take me very long. It took me 3 amateur shows and 1 national show. That's how fast I turned pro. And I knew at that time, because I had done, that was my 3rd show with Paul, was nationals in 2017. I knew that like, I wasn't ready to do coaching, because like, yeah, I had seen a lot from Paul and I learned a lot from him. And like, there were some things that like, I knew if someone had asked me for advice on something, like a certain topic, I'd be able to give it, right? Like flexible dieting or following macros or something like that. And I had a degree, I had an exercise science degree, just like a 2-year associate's degree, but still. So I knew a lot, and I'd been training as a personal trainer too. And then I had moved into gym management, but like, I didn't want to be that person that was like, got my pro card, now I'm a coach, because I didn't believe in myself to be a coach at the time. And B, part of why I didn't believe in myself for that was because I knew that I wasn't there yet. But I saw it as something like, maybe I could do that, because I really like how Paul does this. And like that, he's making it. I literally watched Paul make it into his career, because I think I wasn't with him when he did quit his tech job, but it was pretty soon after. Like he was just going full time around the time like I was like about to start with him or something like that. I'm not sure on the timeline, but I think that's what it was. And then he just blew up after that year in like 2017, then throughout the next few years. But like for me, I really wanted to gain more experience as an athlete first, and go through an off season, go through a pro prep. And since I had been a trainer previously, I had been kind of playing around with people's nutrition at that time. And then I took on like a couple clients here and there, just like on my own on the side. I didn't advertise for it, but I just like helped some people and like coached some people on the side. And I did that like very on and off sporadically from like 2016 to about 2020, when I ended up reaching out to Paul and asking him about coaching for ProPhysique. And that was the best thing that I could do. I coached some people for free. I coached some people like for super cheap, just to kind of like get into it and learn about it. And I got some more like education in terms of like certification. I had my personal training certification, which for those of you that don't have one of those, like that doesn't really do anything for you as a coach. Like, I think it's a nice way to like, yeah, sure, you can add some credibility, like I'm certified in this. But nowadays, like if I were to give someone advice on like how to become a coach, I probably wouldn't start with the personal training certification. I would start with like a mentorship with a coach, or, doing something like NOMS like I did, that's like really specifically about physique development and,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing. J3U is another great resource.
J3U is great.
From John Jewett.
Nice.
So like things that are really by coaches that are, you know, really focused on the physique and not so much just like Gen Pop help, because that's what you're getting when you're doing a personal trainer certification. It's mostly about Gen Pop health or special population health, like people with diseases, things like that. Which is just not generally what you need as a coach who wants to get into bodybuilding prep coaching. So yeah, but like
No,
I started coaching for ProPhysique like January 2021, and like similar to Kaylee, like it just kind of happened really fast. And I think Kaylee, you were actually the person who made me like inspired to actually just go for it with ProPhysique, because I was kind of scared to like, can I quit my job? Can I do this at the same time? Because you had also come from like full-time job. You were in healthcare, like
I worked for the state of Illinois for 11 years before I quit.
yeah. So I was like, she did this and she's like killing it. Like I can tell she's killing it. And I think I asked you advice, like how soon did it happen for you where you were able to quit your job? And I think you said like within a few months, right?
Yeah, it was like 2 months, and I was like, I told my husband, like, I need to make a choice. He's like, and it's easy when you're married and someone else has insurance. He's like, I got it, go do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so
I wasn't married. I was freshly divorced.
Yeah.
So I was like a little more scared, but at the same time, like I was freshly divorced, and that had kind of gave me like an extra level of confidence, because I was like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. No one's going to stop me. And like, I honestly would have come to ProPhysique sooner if it weren't for my ex-husband, because I wanted to coach for ProPhysique, but he was a trainer or he is a trainer. And he and I had always talked about maybe having our own business, but I just didn't like the level of control he had over that. And just like, it was never, obviously it was an unhealthy marriage, so it wasn't going to be a great business. And so I was like, when I did that, I still had my property management job, and I left within like, I think I gave notice at the end of 3 months once I hit like a certain number on my roster. And then I just hustled to get more. And I like in the beginning, like I had never actually brought someone fully through a contest prep. I had gotten people shredded, but not like stage lean for a contest prep. And so like just the level of belief that Paul had in me was like the confidence I needed to keep going. And we did have like, you have the support of the team, and you have the support of like your other coach, your fellow coaches. And I think that's what's been cool, is like, we can learn from each other, but we can also learn like from so many people outside the team as well. And so that's just like what I've been trying to do since then, is just like learn from others and learn from experience, and like the different things that I've done in terms of like education. Like J3U has helped me a lot with my peaking protocols, because like I'd only learned one way to peak previous to that. I'd only ever learned the linear progressive load, and that's great, but it just like, I didn't know anything else. And so like learning other ways of peaking was really helpful for me. And that's been helpful for my athletes, because not everyone peaks the same way. And like, I didn't know that until that. Right. So.
Now, me and you are kind of similar in some situations, Rachel, when it comes to this. Like I probably wouldn't have been with ProPhysique earlier, but I had a partner at the time that wasn't incredibly supportive of it at that time. Eventually it kind of came around to it. I ended up, obviously making the jump to it. But yeah, I kind of jumped in both feet too with it, because, the situation I had at the time, we could do that. And then when that didn't work out, I was kind of like, same as you. Hey, well, it's all on me now to do this and make this work.
Yeah.
And I think
there's
that's
no option.
there's no option. Yeah. Or me go back, because I was in corporate America for a long time. And I was doing well in that. But it wasn't fulfilling for me at all. I think I did 12 shows before I ever coached my first person. And when I joined ProPhysique, I think I'd done over 20 at that point.
Yeah.
I had coached a fair amount of people to stage, just had not been doing it, for a company. And then when I joined ProPhysique, it was the same thing with that. Paul was like, you can jump in with both feet, man. He was like, you're going to be great at this. I know you, I know your principles. I understand this. Like, you are going to kill this.
Honestly,
and so his support me,
like what you just said, I'm sorry, like that confidence that someone you trust has in you, like that can make so much of a difference when it comes to like being a good coach and actually like going for things that you wouldn't have gone for if you were just by yourself and you had no support and like no team, like no significant other, no nothing. Like that is so underrated. It's just like that level of confidence that someone like Paul is an amazing coach. He's made that life for himself that he's made, and his confidence in you, like, and in me and in all of us, like that's been huge.
And he doesn't just give it out either. Like it's not something he just gives out like that. He's seen the results I had with other people prior to that. Like we talked a lot about diet, nutrition, and he knew the people I'd surrounded myself with. Like I've been really, really lucky in my life to be around like the biggest, the best, and the brightest in the sport. Like I really am lucky to have had that. And, you know, sometimes I have to step back and remember that because my knowledge basis is so deep on so many different things that stuff is like almost common sense to me. That's not common sense to a lot of people. And I have to sit back and kind of remember that sometimes. But even at that point, I realize I still have so much to learn, right? Yeah. Like I never want to stop learning.
You have so much to give too. And I think like we all have that from yes, we all have so much to learn, but there's like Matt was saying earlier, like when you start with someone that's a shitty coach, you just don't know what you don't know. And like, we all have the opportunity to be someone's first experience in coaching and someone's first experience in bodybuilding. And that's like one of my favorite things about being a coach is like, we have the power to like give someone a really good experience and like teach them and show them how amazing bodybuilding can be. Because it can be shitty for sure. And we see it all the time where someone does a bodybuilding show or someone's been a pro or someone's been competing for years. And then one day they decide bodybuilding ruined my life, you know, bodybuilding ruined my health or bodybuilding ruined this or that, my relationship. And it's like anything has the power of doing that. You are the one that makes something into something that can ruin you.
You're the catalyst of all of it.
Exactly.
And that's almost been sorry, go ahead, Evan.
Oh, no, I work with a lot of first-time competitors, especially young females. And a lot of them are really, really talented. And it's a lot of fun showing them how strong they actually are, not physically in the gym, but mentally. Showing them that they can push past these things that they don't think they can do. And when they do it and they come out on the other side, they are so happy and proud of it. And their experience is good and the feedback is great. And to me, that's the biggest win of all. It's yeah, of course, I want them all to turn pro and I want them all to dominate and I'll get to Olympia, right? Like that's what I want for everybody. But the big win is number one, they come out healthy. They come out with a good mindset on food. I work with a lot of females that have had eating disorders in the past. And a lot of people think bodybuilding doesn't help with that. And I'm not saying it does, but for a lot of people, it can be an outlet for them to realize that food is not the devil.
Yeah.
Like it serves a purpose and it can help them. And to see these females' relationship with food get better is another it's great. And, you know, I had a consultation last night with a girl who's been very, very picky. She sent me like a 40-something questionnaire before the call.
Damn.
But she's a first-time competitor. And I respected
doing her homework. Yeah.
She's doing her homework. And so what? Guess what? I answered those questions. I sent them back to her. And she's like, I never expected you to do that. And I was like, if you sign with me, great. If not, great too. Like, I want you to, I want to make sure it's a good fit. Yeah. I just want to make sure it's a good fit. Right. And I want to make sure
that's awesome. I'm usually the one sending the questionnaire.
I know. Right.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Unfortunately, most of the questions were it depends. Most of the answers were it depends because that's kind of how it really is.
But like honestly, I have people that tell me like they respect that answer more than just like some bullshit answer. Yeah. Not all the time. A lot of people
shows that you know what you're talking about, man.
Honestly, it does. Yeah. Like sometimes you can follow it up. Like this is why it depends, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like what's better for your cardio or what's, you know, like things, just little questions here and there. How long will it take me to go pro? Like, yeah, it depends, but here's why. And like, it always amazes me that so many coaches, because I hear this from competitors and like clients, won't answer those questions, or they'll answer them with something like, you know, they're just telling them what they want to hear. Like I've had people that I've known that, you know, the coach that they end up going to tells them like, oh yeah, you can do figure. And they're like, they're a bikini competitor. And they're like, they need like a year to 2 years to build into a figure physique. and like their coach told them like, oh yeah, you're a figure competitor now. Like, yeah, you can win an overall. Like, no. Or same thing with like wellness. I've seen that happen too. Whereas like someone tells a bikini competitor with big legs, just more body fat on their lower body, and says like, oh yeah, let's go. Like, let's prep for a wellness show right now. Like, you're just, to me, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I was giving someone advice like that as a coach, because it shows that I don't know what I'm doing. And I want any person that I give advice to, whether they're going to hire me or not, or even if what I say, like the advice makes them not want to hire me, I would rather know that I did the right thing and said the thing that was actually correct and true and realistic than just blow smoke up their ass and be like, oh yeah, let's do it. It's fine.
Well, and that's good about, like, none of us struggle for clients, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what's nice about that is, like, I have a consultation with a girl and she's like, I just afraid I have like 30 pounds to lose before stage. And I told her, I was like, honestly, it's probably more like 40 to 50. And she just didn't say anything. I was like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, it could be less than that, but I want to be realistic with this too. And if that particular person doesn't sign up, that's totally fine. Right. But I would rather be honest than blow smoke.
Yeah.
Blowing
For me,
smoke
Evan,
and giving false.
I want
I
to be
feel like
respected.
that's the hardest and worst I ever feel during a consult call is when you have to be realistic about that weight. That's one of the, like,
Yeah, it's
because you can
difficult.
hear them be quiet and you didn't want to lie to them. You wanted to really know this is the standard, but you could, like, you tell them how much weight realistically for their height, they're probably going to be, and you just get that silence. Like, they're like processing like, oh shit, this is a lot more aggressive or a lot more extreme than I thought.
Yeah. But
when people pick out
you gotta
a
be
show date and they have that set in their minds already, and that show is like 10 weeks away, and you have to break it to them, listen, you're probably going to need double that in order to get ready for that show.
And because
you can get on stage and not in shape, but if you're going to get on stage in shape, then you're going to have to give yourself double that amount of time. It's a hard conversation to have.
That, like, if another coach says like, oh yeah, we can do that in that time, doesn't mean that like that's the better option. Even if they do get you there, say they get you there in 10 weeks and you're stage lean, or you're not overweight or whatever, like, you might be like severely fucked up at that point. Most of the time you are. Like, if you have 20 pounds to lose and a coach gets you there like in 8 to 10 weeks, like, this isn't a blanket statement. Some people can lose that much in that time healthily, but it's very, very slim. Like,
when it comes to females,
the skin doesn't look right. When you do it too fast like that in a rush, the skin doesn't tighten up as you go. It's like it almost, not everyone, but
when you're losing muscle too, usually.
Yeah, like it's typically not a great look. You just look real tired and rough when you get to stage.
Yeah.
And your testosterone is going to be in the gutter, your T3 is going to be in the gutter, and then you're going to rebound and not understand. You're barely going to eat food, and you're going to blow up and not understand why.
Yeah.
And that, not everyone, of course, but that can happen.
I think the younger you are, the more you could probably get away with it, but like,
and men are a lot more resilient to that kind of thing than women.
Guys are. Guys are. Yeah, you can push a guy to the gutter and they'll be fine for the most part.
So tell us let's talk about passion. Like, how do you guys feel like your passion for coaching has like evolved over the years?
I feel like mine changed a lot. Like, I had a lot of passion going into it, but I don't think I really grasped how much until you start helping people reach their goals and see a client happy. Like, the feeling I had, like, the first time I saw a client on stage in person of my own, I was just like I felt like it was my show day, like that anxious butterfly, like where like you get so excited and you feel like you're about to step on stage, and then your first client that gets an overall, your first client that gets, like, I literally passed out when my client turned pro last year.
Oh my God, that's right.
The guy in front of me. Yeah, because I just get like, I feel like it's me. Like, when I prep a client, I look at it like it's me, like, I don't know, like it's myself, and I'm trying to prep them in a way that they'll, the best I can, that they'll enjoy it. And that when they get on stage, they know like my coach cared and they feel really confident that they did everything they could to get to that spot.
Mhm.
I get more nervous for clients on stage than I ever have for myself.
Really?
And I get more excited than I
Yeah.
ever do for myself.
I've never been
Yeah.
nervous about myself going on stage, but like, and like, I'm excited, but it's not that like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Like when I have a client getting on stage, that's how it is. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like freaking
Yeah.
out. Like when I have the same feeling when I had a client that I was seeing on stage for the first time. It was in Washington and I had been DJing the show and she was there. And so I got to see her. And it was just like, it was so cool to watch, but I was also nervous because, you know, there are little things that she had like, you know, fucked up, like she forgot her jewelry. So like we had to find jewelry for her. And like, just the act of like being able to be there for someone is like really powerful for you as a person. And like, I was listening to a podcast once that was just like talking about just like success and like mental health and just things like that. And they were talking about how like, the more you give to others, like the more you just like serve others, generally the happier you are. And I think that's a big reason why like me in my life right now, I'm so happy is because like my job is giving to people. Like, yes, I'm getting paid for it, but like, I don't have to give as much as I give technically. Like there's coaches who get paid way more than me and they do way less. And I don't care about that. I don't care about what they're doing. I care about what I'm doing for my clients. And so like, if I can give a client the sense of accomplishment from reaching their goal to getting to stage, to nailing the reverse. I saw my client, Katie, just posted her 1 year post show. She won an overall in wellness. That was my first overall. That like, again, like that moment, I wasn't there for her, but I remember just feeling like, so like, fuck yeah, I've made it now, like on to the next level. Like, I'm so excited for her. And she had like, you know, we definitely didn't expect it as much. Like we were, you know, just like going into that, but like she made that her goal. That's what we got. And then like her next goal was, I want to nail my reverse. I want to have like a solid off season and not feel like shit, not rebound. And like, that was part of her post today. It was just like, definitely didn't rebound. I'm feeling good. Like no stage lines, but I've made a lot of life gains. And like having people recognize stuff like that, the importance of like life gains, which is like, you know, she got married this year, she got a new job. She's doing all these fun things. And like improving her life in ways outside of bodybuilding. Like that gets me excited because if you can improve your life outside of bodybuilding while still bodybuilding, like you are winning and you can be an amazing bodybuilder. Because like bodybuilding it shouldn't be your whole life. It shouldn't be your whole identity. Like it's a big part of all of our lives. And like top Olympians, it's a huge part of their lives, but like the best people that will go the farthest in the sport and just the farthest in life have other things going on. They have things in their life that, you know, don't depend on bodybuilding, I think. Mm-hmm. And so like the people, if I can have someone care, or if I can help someone learn to care about the longevity of them in the sport and just in life versus like, all I want is that trophy, the fucking plastic trophy or the paper pro card that doesn't actually do anything other than allow you to be the worst in your next like level, is like that's so special to me, is like showing them that longevity is important, showing them that the sport can give you so much, but that you can also do other things and be something outside of the sport.
I didn't even know that I would necessarily have a passion for coaching when I started. I just knew that I wanted to do something in the industry. And at that stage, I was getting my degree in psychology. And when I shifted over kind of to starting to do my personal trainer certification, then I moved my postgraduate to sports psychology, which interestingly enough, now I find doing the coaching has fed so well into that and satisfies both of those interests so well that only once I started, I was like, this is actually my real passion. Mm-hmm. This is what I want to do, to the point where this year I actually decided, I got 5-6 weeks into a prep and I actually cut it short because I felt like I was getting to the point where it might detract away from my ability to give 100% to all my clients that were competing. And I'm at that point now, I'm like, that's actually more important to me than whatever I do in the sport.
That's awesome.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes like you just realize that like it's not the time for that right now. Like I'm so glad that I'm not prepping this year, because like not that I think that I can't prep and be a good coach at the same time. I know I can because I've done it, but at the same time, like I'm really excited this year that I've been able to just go all in to coaching and like fully focus on that, so that next year when I do plan on prepping, I'm better set up for that. Because I know that like, you know, there were some life gains that I wanted to make happen this year. I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to, you know, be more like, I wanted to just develop more as a coach and develop more as a person, and like work on my friendships and like travel a little bit if possible, and just like have a good full life. And I've achieved all of those things, and I'm like excited to keep achieving them. And that's like, the fact that coaching allows me to do that is part of what continues to feed my passion of coaching. And I also I didn't think that I would ever get back into like coaching or training because I was a personal trainer for like 3 or so years. And I thought that was what I was going to do at that time. So I was super young and I just didn't know anything. I think I was 20 when I decided to go to school and just be a trainer. And then really shortly, like quickly into that, like 2 years in, I realized like, wow, this sucks. Like, I don't like trying to sell to people on a gym floor. I just don't like that. Like, I don't like the fact that someone can cancel and I won't get paid and I'll just have to be there. And that whole lesson made me feel like maybe I'm just not cut out for being in the fitness industry like this. And so then I like transitioned more to like gym management and stuff. And that was cool. But like, I realized that wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Like, that's a toxic environment, no matter where you go. And so I was like, kind of lost for a little bit during that time and wondering like, will I ever be able to like be that? And for a little bit, I kind of thought like, maybe I'll just be an athlete and I'll just be able to, you know, I'll work a corporate job. I'll work this way. Maybe one day I'll have something different, but I'll just focus on being an athlete. And now I feel like I'm the best athlete I've ever been, and I can coach too. And that's part of what makes me gives me the happiness that I have now.
Has coaching made you a better athlete?
I think so.
Do you think?
Yeah. I think mostly me as an athlete has made me a better coach because of like my shortcomings as an athlete that I've had. Like I've talked about this before on the podcast, but like I've failed a lot as an athlete. Like I had the highest of highs. I went pro my first time. That was great, but I wasn't a coach at that time. And like, maybe if I had been, I would have become a better athlete, but I don't know. Like, there's no sense in looking back on that like that. But like my failures as an athlete in terms of like, you know, I've had several failed pro shows where like I have not done well, but I also have been, because I tell my clients to like find the bright side of something like a failure or find a lesson in a failure, that has helped me do that more for myself. And just like, it keeps feeding into each other. Like anytime I fail, like I had an athlete, she has been deadlifting, she's been doing great. And then she kind of tweaked her back on her deadlift and she was like freaking out. Oh my God, am I a bad bodybuilder? Am I a bad, like, should I not deadlift anymore? Should I not? She was just really emotional about it. And like, that makes sense that she was like that. Right. But I told her like, girl, I did that a couple weeks ago. Like, it's fine. It sucks, but like, you just kind of get over it. And you learn each time you do something like that. You know, you lift with a little bit of ego, and then you tweak something or something happens and it pushes you back, but it doesn't have to keep you back. Like no failure, no thing that happens that's negative in your life as a bodybuilder has to keep holding you back. Like you have the option to keep going and to learn from it and be better from that. And so that anything from me as an athlete that I've learned that I can apply, like I've been able to apply it to my coaching and to my clients, like that to me means those things were good things. Like I would have loved to win a pro show or get a top call out on a pro show. That would be cool. But all of the things that I have experienced instead have made me a better coach. So I call them wins.
Yeah, I think even for me off that too, I think being an athlete has made me a better coach, and being a coach has made me a better athlete. I've learned from both sides of that,
Yeah.
especially like through this prep I'm going through right now. It's really nice because I can't focus on myself as much. So the stress of always trying to be 100% spot on perfect with every single thing in my entire day, every single moment is gone because I had to put my focus on other people.
Yeah.
And doing that has helped me relax more. Like, I know we were joking around about like the Oura Ring and the sleep score and all that stuff. You should see the difference in it now. It's night and day.
That's
It's night and
awesome.
day. Plus some other supplementations, but it's night and day. It's night and day of it. Like I sleep through the night now. Like I'm good. Like my recovery is better. Everything's better. I feel better. I have more energy, especially at this body weight and where my food's at. Normally I'd be dying at this point. I'm okay. Right. So obviously I have bad moments, but it's all around pretty good. So yeah, I think like in the mental side of things, coaching has helped me be a better athlete. And on the coaching side of things, being an athlete has definitely made me a better coach because I'm always trying to learn more, not just for my clients, but also for myself. Like I've revamped a lot of the ways I train. I've revamped a lot of the ways that I communicate with people. Just a bunch of things I never would have really considered in the past. I do now. So yeah, I think it's again, not mutually exclusive. I think it's up to both ways.
I feel like coaching's made me a more cautious athlete. I
Mhm.
feel like for me personally, I feel like it does put a little bit of added pressure. In terms of like, well, I've only competed, well, I guess 2019 came, but it makes me want to like, no matter what, like be my absolute best. Right. Because if you as a coach half-ass a prep and then you get on stage, your client's gonna be like, why is she doesn't even know what she's doing, or she can't even follow what she's supposed to, more of, because your physique doesn't necessarily mean you don't know what you're doing, but you can't follow through on a plan, because I would never ask my clients to do something that I either haven't done or wouldn't do to get there.
Absolutely.
No, 100%.
I
100%.
think at the very least, you need to show that you can, as a coach, you can improve yourself from show to show. That may never mean that you're pro level or, high pro level, whatever the case is. But if you're constantly improving, that at least shows there's a method behind what you're doing.
Yeah. Or if you can show too that you've learned, like I've been off now longer than I've been on in terms of like in season while I've been a coach. So like I had a prep in 2021. That was my first year as like a full-time coach. And then all of 2022 and all of this year I've been off. And so like most of my clients now have not seen me through prep. Some of them have, and like the ones that were there during that time, like they were super proud of me no matter what, like even though I didn't win or even though I didn't do great. So that was really cool because like you said, Matt, like they saw that I was making improvements, or if I wasn't making improvements, that I was learning. Cause I do pour a lot of those lessons out when I talk on social media, when I talk to them in my check-ins, stuff like that. And like when people ask me, like, some people want to learn and understand the sport more. And so they ask like, well, you looked great. Why didn't you do better? Like what happened or whatever. And so like being a coach and having those people that depend on me makes me be more self-reflective as well, because like, I know if I can't say like why this happened to me or why I did this or why I shouldn't have done that, like, then I'm not going to be as good of a coach. I can't help them as much. So I need to reflect more on myself and my own journey and learn how to be better, because that's going to help them become better too. And I'm going to be able to give them better advice on how to do that for themselves. And I'm like, that's a big part of coaching for me, is not just like getting them to stage or getting them somewhere. It's like helping them learn how to be better versions of themselves in all ways, not just as a bodybuilder, because if you can be better in all ways, you can be a better bodybuilder. So why not work on both?
Those mistakes and failures for sure make you a better coach. I think if everything's come super easy to you and you're just, turn pro really quickly, win your first pro show really quickly, and you're just climbing through the ranks and everything's come really easy, and you haven't had any of those negative experiences or failures or mistakes or whatever the case is, it's kind of difficult to put yourself in the position of clients that invariably will have those setbacks. And if you've had them yourself, you can level with those people and relate to them. And I can guarantee, because I've experienced it as a client and as a coach, that when your coach can relate to you on something that you're feeling, which is negative about yourself, and they've experienced that too, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm actually okay. This is actually just part of the journey.
Yeah. Well, and I've also found too that like, cause that I like doing that and like showing them how like I've gone through something similar, something like that. But I also have found that I've challenged myself in a lot of those situations to like, let me think about someone outside of myself that I know I've helped get through the same kind of thing, because it's always kind of a pet peeve of mine when a coach will only use themselves as an example.
Yes.
Because like, I think it's important to do that, but sometimes like, I want to know who else you've helped do this.
Yes.
Because like, not only like they could talk to that person, because I've had a lot of clients like learn from each other and like make friends and like develop friendships and relationships, because they know like, oh, this client also competes while doing shift work in the medical field. I want to learn from her on like how I can be better as an athlete while also doing this really hard job with this weird schedule. So like people learn from each other doing that, or like, you know, if someone is having trouble with like dealing mentally with a reverse diet or a building phase, you're like, well, look at all these people that also struggled with that mentally, but they're fucking killing it. Look at how much they've grown. And that's something that I really like to showcase more than like a fat loss phase, honestly, is because like, if I can show someone can grow, you know, no matter what the situation is, that much, and like be that competitive with their growth, like that's much cooler to me than a fat loss phase. That's why like you don't see as many people who I bring to stage on my page. It's not because I don't want to showcase them. I showcase them as well, but like I tell people, no, we're not prepping way more than I let people prep. Like I do not bring as many people to stage because I have more people building, because they need to build before they get to stage. And so like, I might take a little longer.
You let all them out of the cage.
I have some people coming out of the cage. I'm excited. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. I think if we're going to rank like importance on things, I would say, passion first, experience, and then education.
Yeah.
Passion, because if you don't have the passion, you're not going to have any of the others.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly. If you don't have passion,
very true.
My first, not my first coach, but my first long-term coach, he told me his number one rule, and I've always abided by that. I think it's a great one. And it's like, just give a shit. Give a shit. Care about the people. Above all, care about the people. Care about the people.
Show up and don't be an asshole.
Yeah. Care about the people. Like give a shit about everything you do with each client. Like care.
And if you don't give a shit, ask yourself why, because maybe it's not a great fit with you and the client, or maybe you don't give a shit because they don't give a shit. So then it's your job to try to help them give a shit, or help them shift focus to something else they give a shit about. You know, competing isn't for everybody. And so if you can tell someone isn't putting in the effort, then like ask them, like, is competing really for you? Because it might not be, and that's okay if it's not.
Yeah. True conversations to have, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I think passion, like when you have enough passion, you'll make the other two happen. Like you'll pay for the education. A lot of people, like, they don't want to get more educated because they don't want to pay for it. And it's like, you'll make it happen. Like, you know, you'll get the course, you'll get the certification, you'll buy the mentorship. Like I have absolute plans on like how I'm going to continue furthering my education, but that's because I'm passionate. Like you also won't learn and really retain knowledge from wherever you're getting educated if you don't have passion. And a big part of how you can get the education too is like having the experience to know what your weak points are. Like I definitely have weak points as a coach.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And so like, if I can't see my weak points, like how will I ever grow? How will I ever learn?
Yeah. Because I would never take extra courses on things that I already know really well. Like if I was like, okay, I'm going to spend money on some education, I'm going to try to poke holes in where am I the weakest? Let's bring that side of my coaching up.
Yeah. And I think a lot of coaches kind of stay in their comfort zone in certain ways. Like they only coach like one kind of person, or they don't take on someone with, a certain issue or something that they feel uncomfortable with. And I think there's a fine line between like, yes, taking someone on that's like has stuff that is outside of your scope and you really know that you couldn't help them. But there's some people that like, I could learn with this client. And as long as I'm upfront with that client, being like, hey, I don't have got a lot of experience with this, like say a woman who wants to be a bodybuilder and she's about to go through menopause or something like that, like I can tell them like, hey, I don't have really good experience with this, but I'm willing to learn. And I'm willing to, if you're willing to learn with me, then great. If you want to go with someone who has more experience with that, that's cool too. But that can kind of stretch you and make you a better coach. And then, then you've learned that you've gotten better at that. So then you go to the next thing, you take on more people like that, maybe. So
I think particularly when you start, it's probably a good idea just to take on a wide array of people. You don't want to be pigeonholed from the beginning. I think obviously, like as you get more experienced, you can probably find a niche. But when you're starting out, you for sure want to expose yourself. Sorry, what's that?
I feel like the niche finds you.
That is true. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't start out being like, I'm going to coach mostly moms, but guess what most of my roster is? And I love it. But I feel like it finds you, kind of like how you find people that you follow because you, I guess, relate with them. Because I've literally had an email from somebody saying, I really want you to be my coach because you like the word fuck and so do I. Literally, that was the email. And who would have thought my smart, inappropriate mouth would bring in people, but it really does. And I have a lot of clients that have a quick wit to them like I do. Because you just kind of, I feel like usually your niche clients kind of like more people like you, because they want to relate to you and even though Evan, you are not a young 20-year-old female, but you have a lot of young 20-year-old female clients. So I don't know if you're secretly like early 20s woman inside. But
I identify that.
I think Evan, just knowing you as a friend, I think you are attractive to those types of clients as a coach because like you're a nice guy, you're just a kind person, and you make people feel comfortable. And that's something that's like unfortunately not super common with men your age who are coaches.
It's not common.
Yeah. And so like you instantly make people feel like really comfortable and feel like, oh yeah, he knows what he's doing. You're very well spoken. And like, you have the background, like you have, like, once you have a certain amount of clients that like do well and like you can showcase that, then, all their friends come. And that's how you've gotten a good amount of your clients, which is amazing. Like that's what you want as a coach is like getting most of your inquiries through referrals that based on you, not anybody else. So I think
that's the majority of what comes in now for me.
Yeah. So it's part of like people who relate to you, but also people who relate to the people you are obviously like doing well with.
Yeah. I mean, I have a good amount of guys that I'll have on stage next year, and I'm excited for that portion of it. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of, like you say, the niche finds you, right? So if people that other people look up to start doing well and they follow them, then, it kind of spider webs out that way with it. So yeah, no, I completely agree for sure.
Matt, do you think you have a niche?
I thought I was going to. So when I started, I think the first probably year with ProPhysique, it was a lot of bikini competitors. But as kind of as 2023 has kind of rolled out, it's been a lot more male competitors, and the female competitors that have been coming to be have been more wellness and figure. But as soon as you have success in a certain area, because within my first, I think 3 months of joining ProPhysique, my first bikini client turned pro. So then I had an influx of bikini competitors. And then beginning of this year, I had a men's physique client turn pro. And then I had a lot of male competitors starting to come to me. And then 2-3 weeks ago, I had another bikini girl turn pro. So now a lot of bikini girls are coming through again. So it just kind of depends on what success I'm seeing with which people, and that kind of tends to reflect in who comes through. But I enjoy coaching across all divisions, to be honest. I love it. So I would prefer not to necessarily find a niche. I like exposing myself to all of that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny how that happens, right? Like as soon as people get successful, like, oh, that person did well, but they don't see there's a million factors that play into that. Like that person's genetic, the time they've trained, the work ethic. Like, me and Paul had a conversation about that the other day. It's like, honestly, to be a well-known coach and to do well, you have to have talented athletes. You have to.
Oh yes,
like
man.
You have to. And you get a couple and they like, oh, that person knows what they're doing. And even some of the best coaches or the biggest name coaches out there who have grown so big, it's like they just ride off a few people, right? That do well. And those people could probably honestly do well with anyone.
With anyone.
Like being
but the
legitimately
important
honest.
thing is that they chose you, right?
Yeah.
Like they chose you, and they chose you for a reason. Yeah, they could do well with anybody because they're a good athlete. Like technically they could do well, but they chose you because they like how you coach. And that's something that's important to keep in mind. I know a lot of coaches might have kind of imposter syndrome when it comes to coaching and like, am I good enough? Am I good enough to do this full time? Whatever it is. Like if you have good athletes who have done well, then like, don't just put them in the box of like, they'd be good with anybody. Like,
oh, no.
They
I'm
could
not
be.
talking.
I know you're not saying that. I just think it's important to note because it's like that, like you can do so much as a coach with good athletes, and you can also make a good athlete shitty. Like good athletes, they can be fragile, and sometimes they can fall once once they don't get the placing they like, or once they have a bad show experience. And it's you as a coach who can also help them pick up the pieces, not just celebrate.
And it's not just about like what happens on stage, right? Well, that's very important. But if you put people on stage and they do well and they're good mentally and they're good internally, then that's the biggest win. You have a bunch of people who look
off the stage.
Yeah, you have a bunch of people who look great on stage, right? But what people did to get them to have that look on stage is not necessarily the best for that athlete.
Yeah.
And especially with newer competitors, you have to be super careful with that, right? Because it's hard for them to reverse out of things normally anyway. So heaven forbid you push them too hard or the hormones are out of balance and like super bad, because hormones are never going to be great when you're dieted down. Let's be real with that, people. They're really never going to be. You get blood work after a show, it's not going to look great. Natural, enhanced, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, can you put your body through hell? Like it's not going to look the best. But what happens after that, right? That's the important part of it too. So yeah, putting people on stage and making them look great is awesome. But there's more to it than that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one thing before we leave is like talk about how do you as a client figure out if the coach you're thinking about hiring has enough of all of the ingredients. Like, how do you, that was me pouring education, experience, and passion.
Yeah, you just have to ask questions. There's no other way to know.
Talk to the, listen, if you post people on Instagram, like I do, I have a bunch of protective clients now that message my clients and ask, hey, how is he as a coach?
Yeah.
I recommend doing that. If you get bad feedback on that, then
well, and like look at the people that the coach you're thinking of talking about posts. And look too, like some people post, like unfortunately, some people post transformations that are not their own, or like transformations that were, exactly. And so that's important too. It's like you don't have to be a detective sometimes to figure that out, but like Evan just said, look at their transformations, see if there's someone tagged, see if that person commented on the post. Usually, if they're an active client, they will comment on it. Or they'll be tagged, and like reach out to that person, and they might not answer, but they probably will, and they'll probably give you an honest review of that coach, and like do that with a few people.
And I don't post transformations once they're not, like if they go to a different coach, or once they move on with life. I don't post transformations from old clients.
No, me neither.
Like,
I just
only
feel like
post-
weird about
No.
it.
Yeah,
Unless I would have like a really good relationship with the client, like they just
like they're
moved
like your
on
friend still,
for whatever reason or something like that, or they're not competing anymore. Like I might do that, but yeah, for the most part,
I need to do better with that. I have like notes. I have a backlog of like 6 people I want to do that with, and I just haven't had a second to do any of it. Yeah, but
I
it's
finally
it's always
did my universe
always
clients
recent.
because I just been, postpartum. It took me a while to finally post like 4 of my contest prep girls.
yeah. So like
I think
ask
also the way
questions.
that we run things with the kind of monthly subscription structure makes it really good, because people can realistically go, okay, I want to try you out as a coach and see what it's actually like to work with you, versus just hearing from other people or speaking to you in a 30-minute consult. They can actually get that experience where you're not locked into paying for 3 months or 6 months or a year in advance.
I like it too. I mean, I know this is the prep series, but I love that structure for lifestyle clients, because my goal is not to have a lifestyle client for 5 years. My goal is to teach them what they need, reach their goal, and they are able to navigate without paying someone to be healthy for the rest of their life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I love our pay structure for that reason, because that's I don't coach so I can take your money for the rest of your life.
Yeah. But I think like Evan, you and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes I wish that we did have more of like a commitment period for prep clients specifically, like bodybuilding clients. Yeah. Because so much of the time that like, this doesn't happen to me very much anymore, but I think it happened to me more in my first year, where someone joins and then it's like, oh shit, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. And then they quit.
And the issue with that is
without reversing. I hate that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've had a lot of times where I've coached people for free for a month because they're only stopping after prep because they just financially prepping for a show is very expensive. And I've had to be like, please don't just go and do nothing. Yeah. Or I'll try to, like, if they have to do that, I'll really map out a month or two structure for them. And then I'm like, just reach out if you get in a bad spot, even though we're not coaching anymore, please just let me know so I can help you.
That shows like how much you care and how important it is. Like, I don't give shit away for free, but like, I would do the same thing. I do the same thing if someone is like, hey, I really can't afford this. Like, sometimes it depends on the person and how much I know that they would actually like do something with that. But for the most part, like I tell them like, hey, like if you want me to help you with like kind of a plan going forward after we're done, let me know. And I can do that. Like you can use your tracker, you can keep doing what you're doing, and have kind of a plan in place and just a rough guideline of what to do. But I think that kind of shows your passion as a coach. And a lot of the times when I've done that, like that client comes back like pretty quickly because they realize, no, I still really need some help, So ask questions about like, why do you like coaching? What is the most important thing to you as a coach? Ask the coach about like the their education and what they've learned from it, and how they do things, because that stuff, if they can't answer that, then maybe that's your answer.
Perfect.
We're at that point where everybody is quiet and it has come to an end.
It is time to end.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Matt, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you have to come on more, Matt. I like chatting.
Yeah.
I love it, guys. I love it. And now that I have electricity, I can make it happen whenever.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone go follow Matt because he's a great coach. He puts out great content. He's a very impressive athlete himself. And I know
I'm an AIDS athlete, but a good coach. I'll take that.
Pretty good, man. Like, you get shredded. You do it right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are you gonna be at the Olympia this year?
Dude, so my wife and I were both planning on coming to the Olympia. But she's actually recently resigned from her job and kind of just taking some time off. I was like, just, don't rush back into anything. Like whatever you choose, like, just take the time and choose something that you freaking love. So she's going to take some time off. So I just think probably not.
Yeah.
Probably
I'm
not
working
this
that
year.
weekend, so I can't. I'm working.
I basically just recovered from our travel to the US last year. So
Yeah, you were gone for like a while. You were like in the US for a month, weren't you? Or something?
I was, but those plane rides, man, it's like a 32-hour trip.
Long.
It's
Very
crazy.
long.
Just recovering from the jet lag took me like 2 weeks, and I got back from the Olympia with that horrible whatever
That
that
death.
infectious
everyone got
disease
sick.
was.
Oh god, it was awful.
Everyone got sick, but
I
I
didn't
got
get
sick
sick.
on a 34-hour flight.
Oh,
I'm
Not
gonna
fun.
try to make it to Olympia. It's pretty far away, so I might be able to make it though.
True.
Evan,
What, 45-minute drive's long.
The trek
so
for you.
long. I have a 2-hour drive just to get to an airport to get out of where I live.
Well, you live in
Oh my-
Time
that's
I've
how you live
traveled
in the middle of the
2
woods.
hours.
It's because you chose your country life.
Yeah, you chose
I
that country
know.
life.
And I
You wanna-
love it because my cost of living counters all the driving.
If you want to live in real life deliverance, you can do that. It's up to you.
You're just jealous of all the animals I'm gonna have.
That's
God.
true.
You better
She's
get
a
a
I'm gonna
fucking
get a
llama.
fucking donkey. I'm gonna name it Evan.
Can you get a llama?
Definitely getting a llama. I already looked up prices. I've been like looking up prices
Oh.
of like all these different animals just so
Just
I know
switch
what
it
I'm
out. Line item, llama.
I know. Well, we're gonna raise our own cow and pig every year so that we can just pay just the cost of butchering. It's so much cheaper.
And you're gonna get a second cow for me and Jess. We
Yes,
talked
you
about
guys are
this.
gonna drive down for your, we're gonna call it your meat trip instead of a road
Yeah.
trip. It's your meat trip where you come to my house and get all your meat for the year.
Yeah.
Are you gonna name them before you slaughter them?
I mean, probably, I don't know.
Oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't name it. I just
Maybe
have to
my
call it
first
cow,
I'll name
cow
it
and
like
pig.
I feel like
Evan.
she's doing the slaughtering. I mean, she might get to
Yeah.
that point. She might.
No, I'm not doing the slaughtering. That's what only reason why we will never probably eat our chickens because when growing up, so anybody that doesn't know, I grew up on farms because often my mom couldn't afford rent. So like the rent was her working on that person's farm. And so that's how we would have where we lived. And I used to see chickens killed a lot and like you cut their heads off and then they still run. It's really fucked up. And then you gotta like pull all their feathers.
Didn't
I'm
know
not down
that.
for that life.
Are you going to use the teaching moment for Pearl? And she'd be like, "Where's Mr. Bell?" And be like, "He's on your plate."
I could never tell her. She'd probably just flip the plate and start screaming. Like her love
my
for
God.
animals could not handle if I told her we were eating her pet pig or something.
She's
Teaching
gonna learn
moment.
one day.
So you gonna learn.
day.
I mean, I've told her like she knows like hamburgers, cows, but like I don't think she'd be down for me killing her pets.
Yeah, that's why I asked if you're gonna name them or not.
Yeah, maybe we'll name it fun things like beef
Evan?
patty or hamburger. And maybe the cow's name will be hamburger or something.
That's awesome. Name him Hamburger
Oh,
or
man.
Chuck.
We'll
Chuck.
call the pig bacon or something.
Chuck and bacon.
That way we
Ground
always
chuck and
know
bacon.
the whole time going in what's happening.
And then just Chuck 2.0 when you get the new one.
Yeah. Chuck Jr.
That'd actually be
Chuck
fun.
the
Because then
third,
over
Chuck
the
the
years,
fourth.
you just have like Chuck 8 or Chuck, like you'd always know.
Chuck the
Chuck
third.
Chuck the 8th. It'll be like
Yeah.
royalty at that point.
I did think about getting a Chick-fil-A sign for our chicken coop.
That's a good idea.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
On that note, thank you all for listening and being here for us. Thank you again for getting us to that 1 million downloads. We had a fun time celebrating that all together, or most of us. Listen to our podcast every Monday for prep, Thursdays for, I was going to say off season, but it's lifestyle. And like, subscribe, send us a review. We'd love to see the reviews, and tag us on Instagram for your favorite parts. All right. ProPhysique out.
Later.